Hello, and welcome back to Tales from Trollskull Tavern. Today with Tricky. We are live on Twitch at the moment, and we hope that I say we, it's just me. But yeah, I hope you come along and have a listen to this recap. We have the recap of session number 76, which was a pretty interesting session, action-packed. There was some combat, there was some goofs and gaffs. We nearly had a full party. We were very close to having a full party, but one of the main characters in the story itself was missing, so we actually backtracked a little bit and kind of changed it up a little bit. And then there was a pretty ominous ending. I was just quickly scribbling out some notes because I haven't actually done a note session where I re-listened to the whole thing, taking notes like some sort of crazed freak that I am, trying to get out content and make this content as good as possible. But you'll have to bear with me, and hopefully we can do a good recap and give everyone out there a chance to catch up with what was happening on the weekend. Now I forgot to get this one up last Saturday, last Saturday I actually put it up a few hours before the game, but hopefully this week I will edit this really quickly and get it out. I was a little bit busy due to the back end of last week doing some other stuff, so that was super fun. I am again testing the new template for outputting audio, so hopefully the audio is okay. It feels a little low. It would be because my phone always wants to just connect everything, which is a pain. You can hear those clicks. That's basically what's doing it. And then the audio, may have some issues. If I go output 25 and 26, does that turn that up? No. 17 and 18, does that turn that up? No. Anyway, fun for the whole family. I think it might be just a little low coming out there. Let's see how that goes. Nope, that doesn't work. It'll sound good in post, so never mind. So today, we are doing a recap of session number 76. I do have the game up. It's been a little while since the game, 2 days. Usually I listen to the game on a Monday night when I'm driving around working. I didn't get a chance to do that. I was really busy, and I haven't had a chance to relive this, but luckily it wasn't too story heavy. It wasn't too dialogue heavy. We did have an interesting conversation back in the orphanarium that we've named it, the orphanage / homeless shelter. And that was a good way to kind of introduce ourselves a little bit more to Karim, who we've had in the last couple of sessions, and welcome Riker back and, get a read on how he's doing. With everything that's going on in his backstory and his character's life. He's had a bit of a rough time lately, so we got a chance to do some downtime there and talk about that, which helped us out, which was good. And we also did a little bit of sort of traversing through the dungeon, and one of the difficult things about these games is sometimes people have other things to do. They might be a little bit late, or Sorry, you just whiffed me sneezing. Or they're not able to make it. So essentially, we're down here. We're looking for Corin's colleague / I don't know what the word, accompaniment. I don't know. It's not the word, but that's the word that's coming to mind. And we essentially are like kind of looking through the dungeon, trying to find her. We got a little bit of information that they were on level 8, which is a few more levels to go after this, but also he kind of didn't turn up, so we had to then again backtrack and kind of throw in some extra information and some extra sort of dungeon crawling to kind of keep the story going along. Karim was running a little bit late as well, so he understandably just did a little bit of scooting down the river just to kind of buy time for him. But looking through, we had Rykit rejoin the party. That was great. Rykit is our cleric, going through it, as I said, and he kind of didn't have any information about where we were. We kind of left him in the dark in the yawning portal, and essentially he had to rejoin the group. He is the cleric, obviously. He has sending spells. He has ways to find us. There's always ways. I'm just going to very quickly blow my nose. Just give me a second. That's better. It'll help me with the rubbing of my nose the entire time. Otherwise, that'll look pretty weird on stream. So yeah, essentially Ryket had to talk to Esmeralda. We found out her name was Esmeralda. We talked to her, and then he talked to her, and then he rejoined the group after kind of traversing the dungeon, finding somebody else, and he just kind of reappeared, which, you know, very difficult in this setting of the Undermountain. I think in canon there is some warping of magic or something, teleporting stuff that the game kind of prevents you from doing. I think, well, I've talked, I think, to Nonverbal DM about this a little bit, and essentially, if you're traveling in this dungeon, the Mad Mage setting, and you're going in and out of the dungeon all the time, you're essentially having to like roll for saves, roll for bad things to happen. I think it's part of the goofiness of the whole setting, or that goofy element of like trying to like railroad the plot through the dungeon caverns and keep people on brand and working through. The big thing that happened was when Tricky was one of the first to leave the dungeon, or he was the first to leave the dungeon through a portal further back in the lore. He essentially rolled a bane or boon and had all his gold taken away, which was a huge kind of plot point. He being maybe a little bit more like coming from a little bit of a richer background than most in the group. You know, it's a way for him to sort of both go, yeah, but money's money. Like, I've grown up with money. I've had money. Tricky's had money before, so that didn't really bother him. But at the same time, also, it's a way to further develop his growing tale of, you know, he comes from a rich background, and for him, he's got to start grounding himself. I think that's part of his, you know, philosophy. He's got to ground himself in what's happening around the world itself, and, you know, developing that was a great way to kind of show that and continue that. If you're ever kind of listening and you hear him make jokes about that, that's essentially the reason why. So Ryket returned. It's great to have our cleric back. You know, we did then kind of walk through the dungeon. We've had some scenarios before where, I'm just scrolling through it here, where dead ends have led to, like, hold on, it's the dungeon of the Mad Mage. Dead ends aren't dead ends in this dungeon. We've done this a few times where we've found seemingly impassable areas of the dungeon and had to stop and just go, hold on. Let's look around first. So that's like, I almost forgot about that. Like, I always just like, oh, dead end, cool, let's go back. And then, I don't know, I remember thinking something just tweaked my curiosity and was just like, hold on. Like, no, let's just make sure that this dead end isn't a dead end for, you know, for the reasons I just laid out there. And after some good investigation rolls, I found there was a switch down in there. I'm just going to mute that because if I play it, it's going to be very loud and conflict with the music. So yeah, Theron being, you know, the main damage absorber in the party, it's also a running theme where he will do the things that, like, the dirty work of the group, essentially. Like, if there's possible cursed items he's picked up before, if there's like, you know, if he's got to take a source of damage that he might take, he'll go and do it. So I thought it was great that he was just like, would you like me to step up and do this? And I was like, you know, like, sometimes as a rogue you want to find something and go, hey, I found something, this is awesome. But also, you don't, like, I had already taken some damage. I think it was at about 20 hit points. So I didn't want to, you know, cop that 50 roll of damage and go down again, and then, you know, have to have people to work their spells to get me back up. So he essentially hit the button. it opened up a little door, and there was a little pouch of magic beans. Now, I had no idea at the time what magic beans were. We have since seen them be used, and now I'm just going to very quickly look up what they actually are, because I don't know what they are. I was just like, okay, magic beans. Magic beans, pouch of beans, bag of beans. So they are inside this heavy cloth bag. There are 3d4 dry beans. I think he rolled an 8. Yeah, there it is right there. He rolled the 8. The bag weighs half a pound plus 1/4 of a pound for each bean it contains. If you dump the bag's contents out on the ground, they will explode in a 10-foot radius, extending from the beans. Now, at the time, I didn't know this. I was just like, a bag of beans. I don't even know what that is. Each creature in the area, including you, must make a DC 15 save, dexterity saving throw, taking 5d4 damage on a failed save and half as much damage on a successful one. It wouldn't have mattered to me because I can negate that with a successful dexterity roll, which would be good. If the fire ignites flammable objects in the area, they aren't being worn. The fire ignites flammable objects in the area that aren't being worn or carried. If you remove a bean from the bag, plant it in the dirt and sand, then water it, the bean produces an effect 1 minute later from the ground where it was planted. Ah, cool. So there's some other stuff here. I won't read it now. I like to keep, these little background item things in the dark for me as a person playing the game. I don't tend to want to understand every little thing that happens in the game. For me, it kind of makes me have that experience be more interesting and more real. Hence not knowing what was happening here. I was like, oh, I'm going to bag of beans. Yep, cool, whatever that is. So we kind of left the area here. We're moving along. Again, it's tough to kind of traverse this dungeon and walk around. There's camera stuff. I think we can get better at kind of making this setting kind of work better as a viewable product. Also, you just kind of forget, as a player, you just kind of forget what's happening. And I was just so turned around. I didn't know where we were. I'd written on the walls. We'd moved into different areas, and we essentially just were traversing the same area over and over again, which is something that we kind of want to try and avoid as a viewing experience. But yeah, just a little insight into sometimes it is tough, with these dungeons, you forget about where everything is. And it just made me think, we just got to get a map. Let's get a map, which we'll find out. I'll talk about a little bit later on in the episode, because that comes into its own a little bit later and has a little bit more context. So we moved further along, and then we came upon this area here. As you can see down in the corner, I turned my mouse off so you can't actually see me pinging, but in the corner there was an Etten fighting another creature that turned out to be a pig warthog with wings. Pretty nasty looking creature. Now, I had no idea what this was, and I honestly can't remember what she called it. A Narfishow? I wrote in my notes, Narfishow? No, is it Narfishu? Nasishifu? I should have looked up what this was, but I didn't. I should remember what that was. But a pretty nasty demon, with spells and all sorts of other things, with a bunch of ropers around fighting an Etten. Being the good adventuring party that we are, we instantly kind of went in to aid the Etten, giant two-headed Etten that was fighting. And we as a group always kind of try and help if we think there's evil going on. If we think something nasty's happening, we always try and go in and aid something that is happening, rather than just go, whatever, let's leave, let them fight it out. I think maybe one or two times we've kind of let things happen, but most of the time we go in and we fight things. So we went in thinking, cool, we'll just mop this up, see what happens. There was, some pretty nasty damage being dealt from these roper characters, these creatures. You can see there, I've put myself in a flanking position with Karim. I probably should have done it with Theron, because he has the ability to do a lot more damage with that advantage. He does get advantage with his elven accuracy and some stuff like that, so hopefully, in the future you'll probably see Karim really help out Theron being able to kind of flank and maneuver and give him those advantages. I think Karim himself as a character playing the game will understand, Alex will understand that this will be super beneficial if we can kind of give Theron as much advantage as possible, because he's a absolutely nasty damage dealer with his smites and stuff like that. He can get upwards of 70, 80, 90 damage in a turn fairly regular. I say fairly regularly, but it is, for him, it is kind of fairly regularly if he does have those spell slots, which, helps us greatly in fights at this kind of level. And this was a kind of fight where we haven't had, obviously we're like way too high level for the dungeon at the moment. Level 4, like apparently you're supposed to progress in ways with your own level, like per level of the dungeon itself. And we're at level 9 and this area is level 4. So I think the DMs had to kind of rejig some of these encounters just to make sure we aren't just going in and just going and one-shot kill and one-shot kill and one-shot kill. Oh, cool. Good fight, boys. That was a great fight. So this was one of the very rare fights where it was like the odds were super not in our favor. And very, very early on, after we've struggled to kind of kill that first roper, we realized and we're just like, it's probably time to get out. Tricky was low on health from the previous fight, since he walked into that fight with the ghost monster thingies, and he took a hit from one of the ropers and he went down pretty much instantly. Oh, actually, I think these ropers pretty much knocked out this Etten almost instantly. And then, Tricky copped one tentacle and was pretty much down. Which I think turns the fight. Now, look, if we were to sit here and kind of analyze this fight, Karim pulled off some pretty crazy patient defense. And something that we haven't seen in our playthrough so far is that whole... We have a character now that can kind of sit there and you kind of go, please, sir, take some damage. And, it was Theron a lot. In previously, he had a shield and rapier at the time, so his AC was quite high. But he was never really that character who would be like, right, I'm the meat shield, I am happy to go in and take damage. And, hide behind my sword, use defensive tools, defensive capabilities. So to see Karim use patient defense, and it had a great kind of impact. I think there was 3 or 4 characters' turns where it basically negated all the damage. And it was one of those moments where, as a player, you start to uncover a new player's kind of niche and where they fit in, which was great to see, because not every player, not every character is built for that. I'm going to be a tank, or I'm going to be like a dodge tank. And, not every player wants to play that way. Not every player wants to go in and either deal damage or wants to go in and just be a tank and take all the damage. So it was great for him to do that. And then after this fight, obviously, as I discussed it, after the fight, we kind of, oh, that was great. Like, that was really good. That was super handy the way you did that. That's going to be an important part of what we are, and reinforcing that within the group, because, in the game, we're all sitting there going, he's a monk. We know his abilities. We know what he's going to do. But as characters, we are now moving Theron away from that kind of super all-tank ability into more of a damage dealer. So to have that monk there to kind of take all that damage was really, really good. The fight went very south, when Tricky kind of went down. Theron had to hit me with lay on hands. Karim had to kind of make a beeline out of there. I think we probably could have taken this one out. If you stack up the odds, if you really do analysis on it and stack it up, we probably could have kind of backed into the dungeon a little bit, and funneled them, kited them into the tight spaces and took them out one by one. But the way as a group we're kind of feeling at the moment, I think it was great for us to kind of go, you know what, this is way overpowered. Let's have a moment where we kind of introspect and back out of a fight scenario. So there was a little bit of a struggle to kind of get out of there. It sucks that I can't remember this thing's name. but it turned invisible or vanished in a way. Banished? No, not banished. I think it was invisible. Or it like plane shifted maybe or something like that. We essentially kind of backed out of the room. Oh, there's a like and subscribe for you. Before, yeah, Ryket. Here we go. The story of Ryket and the magic bean. So that beanbag came in super handy where he, I think, threw 3 or 4 of the beans into the room. Essentially lighting the entire thing up and allowing us all to kind of make a hasty retreat. And to where I think he then sort of put up a little rock wall. Oh yeah, sorry, I threw a fuzzy bag of tricks, which ended up being a giant hyena. Looking at the stats, I'll just pull up the stats. I think I've got it here. No, for some reason it keeps disappearing. Large beast just keeps popping up, but why does it? I'm just going to delete one of those large. Why doesn't it just go? It's a giant hyena summoned. But we'll, yeah, I'll have a look at that anyway. It was my giant hyena out of the fuzzy bag. I haven't got a name for it. The funny thing is I have, you know, this bag of tricks where I pull out different things, and I've got funny names for all these things, but this one I forgot. Hyena I put, so H-I-G-H, Yena, which essentially it was to give us time, to buy us time to get out of there. We did have a conversation after that, you know, briefly about that hyena being like a real creature, or like the, you know, the morality of letting a creature like that die. But essentially to me, it's a bag of tricks and it's a spell. So if you cast a spell, for example, like you find familiar or something, and your familiar gets puffed out of existence, like, is that really something that is a real kind of living moral creature to then sort of say, oh well, you know, the morality of we shouldn't let these things die. It's an interesting sort of thought experiment to think about it that way. I think the DM sort of said that these were like fey-like creatures, but I tend to think like a fuzzy bag of tricks, in my opinion, is more an actual object, but a transmutated object that turns into a real thing. So it's not like a fey creature where like a poof out of existence, like it actually is a real creature. But you know, there is that moral gray area of, you know, using these kind of things to essentially get you out of trouble and as meat shields. The thing is, like, I think I've got to start using these a little bit more, like throwing them out as meat shields. Sorry, throwing them out. I bumped the mic. Because they are quite handy, they're quite powerful, and the more things we can kind of throw it at. But with a full party of 5, I think we're going to go into these battles like with a little bit more steadfast kind of ability to hold our own. And seeing Karim take all that damage, you know, that was handy as well. That's going to be a great, you know, a great kind of staple of, you know, being able to tank and help out Theron with those advantages. So we then, backed out. We closed up the little thing, had a conversation with Brutus after the break, essentially sort of saying we need to get out of here, to go back up to the orphan area, to then, you know, have a little bit of a rest, in which we did. And as a group, we had a pretty good conversation just about, you know, the game in general, what we've been what we've been up to, endearing kind of Kareem into the group a little bit. I think he was a little bit hesitant to kind of give away his information and stuff like that, which I understand. You know, as a new character coming into the game, you don't want to like give away all your secrets. But it was good to have like a nice conversation about the current threats in the game. So if you are watching this and you want to go back and sort of see that, go back and watch this conversation, because it was an interesting part of like what we are doing as a group. And really, I think allows us to kind of really introspect and just sort of say like, you know, what are we doing? I think as a group, in the next couple of sessions, we'll have all 5 players, hopefully. And we will be able to then, you know, galvanize from here and see kind of what we're doing. But yeah, the big bombshell of the episode was, after this long rest, we chose to then ask Esme about this portal that's on the ground that's basically sucking things in. And I, as a player, as the person playing the player, me, I thought this thing was basically the portal that went from our tower to this room the first time, the one that Reichert used. I thought, was it the tower or was it the room in, the Tiger's Eye, formerly the Tiger's Eye, that's now, Tricky's home. Bought the deed off Vincent. And it turns out it's not. It's some sort of remote plane where we all stepped into, and there was pure darkness. So the episode ended with some very heavy kind of stuff where pure darkness. I don't think anyone could hear anybody. I think we're all in quote-unquote different locations. Tricky himself, I think, was frozen in that moment of just like, there's no one here. Like, oh my god, where is everyone? This is not good. Whereas a couple of the other players had the kind of fortitude to step out and see what was happening in their area. And I think Reichert let us listen to this.
If you arrive with the others, you cannot see a single thing.
Further in, there is.
Well, you can always see where the whispers are coming from.
Why have you come here? Or something like
Currently,
that. Darkness. But yeah, huge kind of cliffhanger ending. Once again, we find ourselves in a position where we are all separated. We're all kind of, nobody knows what's going on. Hopefully we can have all 5 players at the next session. Corin will just be sitting in a hot dog stand, having a hot dog, chilling out, whereas all the 4 of us will be in some sort of new realm. Yeah, who knows? Who knows where that is? There's a few suggestions that it might be, could it be linked to Asmodeus? Hopefully not, because that's very, very high level, very high power, all powerful. And that, I made the comment that if we think it is Asmodeus, then cool, like something like whatever it actually is, if it's not, will be a lot better than going to the actual demonic realm, the layer of hell where Asmodeus kind of resides, and trying to resolve that when we're only level 9. So, who knows? And there, yeah, I think that was where it ended. A nice cliffhanger for next week. I think we're all kind of left thinking, oh, come on, man, let's play some more. Come on, this is we want to know what this is. But you'll have to wait until next week for that to resolve itself. So yeah, another great episode. A little bit of a clunky kind of travel through the dungeon, a good fight. Having Reichert back was great. It's good to have him back. He's every Arcana check, we kind of throw him at those Arcana checks, which is handy to have because a lot of us kind of don't really have that expertise. So the magical stuff is great when he gets to roleplay that out too. He's great at roleplaying that. And then yeah, like maybe we've made a bit of a boo-boo here going into this portal. But yeah, what other choice did we have? We didn't have Corin, and Corin's who we're looking for at the moment. I think Karim sort of said that he had somebody in his order that went missing that he's kind of looking for, which also is another like monk background thing that we're going to have to explore. He didn't say time is of the essence. He said it was more like we're just going to find him in due course. Yeah, and then, Theron, obviously his warlock arc, maybe this is part of this, maybe. And then, yeah, Tricky looking for his father in the dungeon. I don't think it's that. So, so we'll have to wait and see on the next episode. And yeah, that'll be coming along on Sunday. So yeah, if you want to give us a follow on Twitch, that'll really help us out. And I will edit this and put this back up on Saturday on YouTube. So if you want to go to YouTube, OnlyFiends DND, and give us a follow, subscribe, and give the videos a like there. Give it a watch. You can rewatch our sessions on YouTube. The full session will go back up on a Thursday. I think it premieres at 7 o'clock Australian time, so it's evenings-ish for all the other locations around the world. And yeah, give us a follow, give us a like. OnlyFiends DND. Yeah, shout out to Tabletop Audio. I do have the little thing at the bottom here saying Tabletop Audio, which is great. They've really helped us out. I do have some tablet ambience going, and yeah, I really appreciate everyone coming along to listen and watch these little recaps. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks I can get somebody else to come along. Maybe we might postpone one for a Saturday and we can get a few more people to come along and do that recap with us, because I think it's nice to have ideas and bounce things off each other and kind of reinforce what we're doing as out of the game people. And yeah, thank you very much for coming along watching, and we'll see you on Sunday.